I'm Batman, and today I will be interviewing the great Michael Losier for his superpower. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, Johnny, I'm doing good. Excited to be here, finding out what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, but before I interview, do you know how so grateful I am to you? Like I want to, I wanted to give back to you everything that my work have been trying to do, and I've been trying to figure out how to give back to you, right? Because I feel like you have made my dream come true. Like I interview like so many people that I never thought I knew that I could interview, like from Kung Fu master who father-in-law trained with Bruce Lee and production manager for Team Titans, all those kung fu people and all the expert, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate that.
Okay, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Sure. My name is Michael Losier. I'm the author of these three best-selling books, sold over 3 million copies, 37 languages. I'm also the how-to guy for teaching law of attraction. And I know, Johnny, in the past, we've talked about my book, Law of Attraction, and my other books, and you like the way they're laid out. You like the way they're written. And they're how-to books. You know, that's what I do. I teach people how to apply things. All of my work is the way my writing style is really based on my second book, which is about NLP. That's neuro, the brain, linguistics, which is words and programming. And I know how to write and tell stories that all the learning, there's 4 of them, all 4 learning styles will really, really get it. And I know when people say, oh, I love your writing style, what they're really saying is you wrote that book to match my style without knowing that's what I've done for them.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I remember back then when I did a book review for you, but it wasn't kind of like a book review. But you said, "Where is it?" I remember you tweeted, that. You're the first author who ever did that. You know, like that's why I noticed that you're so humble at your your stage for best-selling author. Like I've seen it. Like not often, many times people who are a best-selling author, they're not really nice. But as you treat your customer with kindness, and that's
Mm,
I appreciate that with you.
thank you. Well, I learned that from Wayne Dyer.
Mm,
You know, when Wayne Dyer was first starting his career, he said yes to every interview.
yeah.
Every interview he said yes to. And I've said yes to every interview. It doesn't matter whether you're famous or not famous. And sometimes I don't want to be a whole hour with somebody, depending, but I will respect people. And, it's always helping business. Right now I'm getting to talk about my books and get the exposure. And so, yeah, I'm helping you out. You're helping me out.
Yes.
But I always say yes to an interview.
Yes. Now, this is a question that I actually want to do because nobody talk about it. How did you get? Well, maybe they talk about it, but I haven't seen it yet. How did you get into Oprah, or how did she find you, or how did you get in or manifest Oprah? That's why I'm interested.
Well, in my entire career, and I've been in the business for 20 years, I've never solicited ever. I've never solicited a radio interview, a TV interview, a seminar. I've traveled the world 3 times. I was interviewed by Oprah 4 times. I had my own show on the Oprah Network, and I never pitched any of that ever. And I use law of attraction for that. And the timing was good. My book came out, Law of Attraction came out in 2003, and the movie called The Secret came out in 2006. So all of a sudden, the whole world was learning about The Secret, but The Secret was really the law of attraction. So Oprah had the people from The Secret on her TV show, panel members, and in my opinion, they didn't do a very good job. They didn't really talk about how it was working. They just talked about the results, people having coincidences. But, like that was like feel-good stories. And a week after they were on the Oprah Winfrey show, I got a call from the office saying, Oprah wants to interview some people that know how to apply it. And I was scheduled to do one 30-minute interview, and it turned into 4 30-minute interviews. And I was on Oprah radio every day for a month, 3 times a day for a month with my interviews. Week 1 was interview 1, week 2 was interview 2. And of course, in rotation, they played it like 15, 25 times a week. So thank you, Oprah. Thank you, Oprah.
Thank you, Oprah. But the thing is, you're absolutely right. I've been trying to or doing helping people to get away. Well, the thing is, yes, there's so much missing in the secret that I want to address, and what you say is absolutely right. I've been trying to. It's my mission to actually help the law of attraction to change the way they're thinking, because I know that you're the how-to guy and you get results, and I know that you do get results. That's the amazing part. But how did you feel about Oprah when you were in the presence of her?
Well, it was done on the radio, and I had my own radio show for a year before that, so I was very used. I can turn it on. When that red camera light's on, I turn it on. When the broadcast sign is on in the radio interview, I can turn it on. So, with all due respect, my Oprah interview was an interview. And she came prepared. She had the right questions. There was no personal chit chat. She came on the air. She introduced me. She started off with good questions. Also, before the interview, the producer wanted to know if I wanted the questions in advance. I never do. You asked me the same thing. He said, "Do you want to know the questions?" No, I don't want to know the questions. I want them right then, right there. And I nailed it. I nailed the first interview. And I remember I'm in the radio station. I was scheduled for a 30-minute interview. I was in Vancouver. It was in probably around January, February, so it was cold out. And I put a winter jacket on. I zipped it up, and I had a backpack on, and I snapped it all shut, and I put a hat on. I was ready to leave the studio, and the producer knocks on the glass, and he points and said, "Oprah," because when you're done an interview, they just hang up because they're doing another one. So I put the headset on top of my hat. Remember, I've got a zipped up jacket. I've got a fastened backpack on, and I heard the music playing, and it said, and Oprah came on. She said, "You heard him last week. We brought him back for a second interview." So my second interview with Oprah, I was fully dressed in a hot office with a jacket and a hat and headphones and so on. And you don't get asked back for a second interview if you did a good job. And that happened three times. So I ended up having 4 half-hour interviews. And I wasn't starstruck. I knew, obviously I watched her shows. I knew who she was. But when it comes time to do my job, I turned into the interview, and it wasn't recorded. I wasn't broadcast live. I knew it was being recorded. So I knew there was lots of flexibility if there was a mistake. And I nailed it. They didn't edit one word out. It went from start to finish. And then it was like, oh, okay. And I remember the third interview, we were taking live callers. And she said, "Are you sure you don't want to know their questions?" I said, "No." And I nailed every question. I had a perfect answer for every question. So to make the long story short, she was a professional interviewer in my head. And I didn't want to get into starstruck and be nervous. It's like, no, I can do this. I also knew that somehow there'd be a big impact. Like I would have a lot of new fans, a lot of new listeners. My show was one of the top 5 of all the shows on the Oprah network. And, my show was pretty famous there. So I was pretty excited. I'm just looking for something to show you. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I did have a little sign that I wanted to show you. But yeah, I was pretty excited about that. It was a great opportunity. And then after about a week after all the interviews aired, then I got another phone call, and it said, "Would you like to host your own show on the Oprah network?" So I live on a little island on the west coast of Canada. So once a month, I would fly to Vancouver, and I would record 4 shows. And I was one of the speakers. See if you can find me there, Johnny. I was one of the hosts on the Oprah Winfrey Network. I mean, look at the company I was keeping. Gail King, Maya Angelou, Nate Berkus, Dr. Oz, and I'm right here with a mustache. I was the very first one. Like, that was bizarre for me. It's like, am I a friend? Like, all of these people were world famous. And then there was Michael Losier, and my show was very popular. I had a lot of listeners. And yeah, I'll cherish this little poster forever, showing there. I even have a mug, the Oprah and Friends coffee mug. No one's allowed to use it. It's got a special place in my cupboard. Do not touch. It's mine.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. The one thing that I noticed that no matter how, because I remember back then when I did the interview with you, I made so many mistakes, and you gave me so many chances. Why?
Well, everyone makes a mistake. Like, it's not really a mistake; it's just polishing. Yesterday I filmed my 250th Friday show, Facebook Live, number 250. So, the very first show, do you know the first four shows, I never posted them. I did them live, and then when I was done, I deleted it. So when you go to look at my inventory, show number one really wasn't the first one. It was the fourth one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the first one, I had technical problems. I was using Google Hang, technical problems, and the lighting wasn't good for some people, and I didn't have the proper mic on, but we did it. We went through, it was like a dress rehearsal, although we were live, and I did it. Then after the show, I watched part of it, and I thought, I'm not going to post it. And then I did the second show, and I cleaned up the parts that I didn't like in the first show, and it was getting better. I said, still not ready. And then when I went to do the fourth show, which is really show number one, it's called How to Reset Your Vibes, I was there. I said, there, we did it. All those game shows that you see on TV, they're rehearsed multiple times before they ever air on TV. The only thing that really isn't is like interviews, but all the game shows, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and they're all practiced and they're rehearsed over and over and over again. And I remember hearing Harry Connick Jr., his new talk show, Wendy Williams, their talk show. They do many of those in live audiences before they're ever recorded live. You hear them say, oh, remember we were doing the pilots? In other words, they'd act like they were live. They do the whole show, and then they probably have meetings and talk about what did we do well. Here's my two questions. What did I do well, and what could I do differently? You see how I'm not beating myself up? Here's what I did well. I engaged my guests. I engaged the viewers. I did this. And what could I do differently? Well, what I could do differently was probably have a better mic on. Instead of beating myself, oh, I didn't like this. I never talk about what I didn't do well. It's what could I do differently? I could probably speak slower next time. I could probably engage the audience more next time. And then you use that. And then you have your second interview. And you use that. You have your third interview. You just got to get started. I'm working with somebody right now that wants to have his own Facebook Live show. And he is so resistant to get started because he wants to have it perfect. And then I told him, I want you to do the first show, but don't post it. And here's an expression, stop getting ready and get started. Just stop getting ready. Just do it. And then behind there, you can say, here's what I did well. Here's what I could do different. Then do it again. Here's what I did well. Here's what I could do different. Nobody out of the gate does it perfectly. When I was at the Oprah studio doing my radio interview, I think we recorded 5 of them before they said, okay, you know what? The last one, we're going to air that. That's going to be your official one. I didn't know that. I thought we were stockpiling. He said, no, we didn't record. He even admitted, he said, we didn't record any of these. We were just getting you to practice. I said, you did a good job, and we're going to use, it's like, well, if I did a good job, how come we didn't use the first one? Because they wanted it to be polished. They wanted it to be a job well done. You have to have feedback. People use the word criticism. I hate that word, criticism. It's just feedback. See, feedback doesn't have an emotion. Here's feedback. Here's 5 things you did well. Here's what you could do differently. And when I interviewed you, I did the same thing. I was invested. You were excited. You're promoting books. Who's promoting books nowadays? Reading books. So I wanted to groom you. I didn't want you to have a first experience and beat yourself up and not do it again. And I've seen the other people. You've got some good guests on your radio, your shows, right? So, and confidence, you can't buy it. Confidence comes from your experience, right? Your confidence today is way better. How did you gain confidence? Because of your experience. So that's the message today. Confidence build experience. Stop getting ready and get started, and give yourself feedback. What did I do well, and what could I do differently?
Right. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Been about this. I see it with a lot of attraction people, and it hurt me so much. I say that they have so much potential to offer to the world, but they have this idea that, like you said, perfectionism or perfect. It also has to do with the fear too. I know that so many of us have fear in taking action, and I noticed that from Catherine Ponder and the Science of Getting Rich. It said you had to take personal action, right? And that's what I took all the action, tried to get the interview, even though I feel like I did beat myself up, and I was like, crap. I was laying there, and I was like, how am I ever gonna do this interview? But then I overcome my fear and overcome, and I did it again, but I was shaking, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's what I mean by just doing it. In my head, I have an idea for a TV show, like a reality series on the emotion code. So that's scary to me. How's it going to be produced? How's it going to work? So on Saturdays, I do a Facebook Live show on the emotion code. That show is training me in preparation for my bigger dream, which is to be on a network or to be on a cable show or to be on PBS or something, talking about the emotion code, bringing people to the front of the room, healing their chronic pain and so on. So I can't go from where I'm now to having that successful show. So I gave it attention, energy. It's not going to pop in my life overnight. So I need to do things that are in alignment to that. And alignment means align, like in a lineup, alignment, a line that's meant to be. If I'm taking a plumbing course, I'm not in alignment anymore. I stepped out of the line. So right now, what I'm doing with my Facebook Live show with the emotion code is in a line to what I want to be doing down the road. It's training. You saw me today. My confidence is through the roof. Where does my confidence come from? It comes from my experience. Now, if somebody came in the room and turned a camera on me, I just have to look at the camera now. Like I've got the skills, I've got the language, I've got the personality, I've got the knowledge. I just need to change the camera from my laptop to the TV camera. You see how I took a calculated risk? It's a risk to go to do a TV show, but I calculated the risk. In other words, I calculated, it says, well, I'm going to do this first. The first 2 shows on the emotion code, we didn't go live. Show number 3, even though we call it show number 1, was really show number 3. In other words, I calculated, I felt the risk, I felt the fear, I did it. And I calculated it. So it wasn't a big giant leap. It was just little tiny baby leaps. So that's another lesson for today's, be a calculated risk taker. Take the risk, but calculate it. Know what the risk is, and instead of having it too big, take little tiny risks, little tiny steps.
yeah, that's what my message is. I've been trying to build my credibility by interviewing author because I wanted. You already know that, like you said in my other video, that I'm very ambitious. Because I want to interview who. See, I think that law of attraction is about using that to your full advantage and to make your dream come true. And I want to make my dream come true to interview whoever I want, not just you know, you know.
Yeah. Well, are you in the process of making that happen? Are you doing things that are in alignment to helping you do that?
Yes.
You are. That's right. So making your dreams come true means that you're doing things that are in alignment to that goal. If you said, well, right now I'm at plumber's college, I'm spending all my time learning how to be a plumber. There's no judgment about that, but that's not in alignment to your goal. So you just got to keep, well, maybe you're going to, if you say I'm in plumber's college, but once a month I'm interviewing somebody, I said, that's okay. As long as you keep it moving, it's like a wheel. As long as you keep the wheel moving towards the goal. I worked for the government for 10 years while I was doing this on the side. That I always want to be an author and a trainer and a speaker. Yeah, but you're working for the government. Yeah, but on Saturdays for 2 years, I'm going to people's places and giving a presentation. So even though it wasn't my full-time job, I was still doing something that was I kept the energy moving. If I didn't do anything for 6 months, then I'm BSing. It's just a wish. I'm not doing any action towards it.
Right. That's why I'm on fire. I'm like getting all these interviews like crazy, and also because of YouTube. But I wanted to interview Bob Proctor, but it's gonna take some time. Uh, but for myself, I want to be an author, or for anyone who wants to become an author or writer, what do they need to do to start writing, and what's the process to be get it published?
Well, it depends on what kind of writing you want to do. I'm not a storyteller. I'm writing processes. All three of my books were seminars first. They were all seminars. And when you do a seminar, you have to build the program. You got to teach the client, the student this, and then you go to this, and then you go to this, and you go to this. So my books were really my manual to teach at a seminar. And then I turned it into a book. I'm not talking about writing a love story. I'm talking about doing, these are like information books, processes.
You take the seminar that you teach and you purpose it, right, in your book, right?
That's right. In a seminar, you have to learn step A and then step B, and then you go to step, like there's processes. So I would take my seminar program, the one that the trainer uses to teach from, and then I added characters, I added worksheets, I added success stories, I added some background, and before you know it, I'm building, from the Law of Attraction book, I'm building my seminar program into a book.
Okay.
Yeah. And my book is 18 years old. And every time the publisher goes to print it, they always say, do you want to change anything? And I said, never. The only thing I ever changed is the photo on the back cover. But the content has been exactly the same since 2003.
Right.
It's 15 years old, but I wrote it 3 years earlier. So it's 15 years old, and I've never changed one word in that book. Why? Because I tested it. Even my third book, Your Life's Purpose, I did that seminar in Hong Kong. I did it in Malaysia. I did it in Singapore. I did it in Victoria and Vancouver multiple times. And I'd walk around the room and I'd watch people doing the processes. I'd watch people get confused and make a mistake. I'd watch other people say, oh, I love this part. And I would take notes. And I'd go back to my hotel and I'd take my notes and I'd say, okay, this part was confusing to some students. And I'd ask why it was confusing. And they would tell me, I thought, oh, great, that's a good tip. So all of my books are tested. They're tested through clients, and these seminars, they drive me, write a book on a weekend. Yeah, well, guess what? Good luck with that. I don't think it's possible to write. My books took years to write. This one in the middle was quicker. This one took 3 years, and this one took 5 years. And I didn't work on it every day. I'd do a seminar and I'd work on it, and then I'd put it away. And I was busy doing other things. So I wasn't writing it full time, but I don't believe you can write a book on a weekend. Even if you had all the words there, it's going to take a weekend to organize your thoughts and to build out the table of contents and to flush out the sections and so on.
Right. For you, I noticed that I observe online and a lot of people at me. I noticed because I do watch your shows, but I do also watch on when it's on YouTube because I'm so busy with trying to get interviews. You have other skills other than, because what I'm trying to do is that everyone that I study that have skills, Gary Vaynerchuk, Bob Proctor, yourself as included, but so many people in the law of attraction, they discount that. So I want them to know that you guys also have skills.
Well, part of my skills is understanding the 4 ways people like to receive information. Sometimes you pick up a thick book, it's all words. A lot of people don't like that, and a lot of people do. So my books they're actually catering to the 4 different learning styles, because there's 4 ways. I'm just looking for a little chart here. There's 4 ways that people like to learn. Some people like to see it. Some people like to read it. Some people like to do it. Some people like to touch it. So the key is appeasing all the different learning styles. My book's got worksheets. They've got checkoff lists. They've got characters. They've got quotes in them. They've got, at the end of each chapter says, by the end of this chapter, you should have learned these 3 things. Some groups, oh, yes, I learned that. They like to check them off. So a lot of people say they like the style of my book, and what they really mean is, I like the way you wrote to satisfy my style. And NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, that is the use of wording. So people like the way I word the books. Even in my seminars, what my claim to fame is I use accelerated learning techniques. And these are techniques that help accelerate the learning. So even on my Hangout shows, I'm showing graphics, and I'm showing things like I'm trying to engage all the ways that people like to receive information. So I would say that's my secret to writing, is writing to all 4 styles and be very succinct. My books aren't very big. They're 144 pages thick. It's not very thick.
Right. Thank you so much. And for you, you're an entrepreneur. You have built an online business. I know this is. That's how I usually see when I buy all these books and stuff. It's online video. For you, you have an online product. How do you develop them, and how do you get people to buy them?
Well, if you remember, you will remember, all of my books were seminars first, and all of my books are processes. And processes is what people pay for. They pay for the system. Law of attraction is a 3-step system for deliberate attraction. The NLP book, there's 3 conditions to connect with other people. The Your Life Purpose book, there's 5 steps on how to identify. So all of those become teaching moments. They all become classes, you know. So it's easy to take my material and turn them into classes, online classes, seminar classes, modules, whatever you want to call them, workbooks. They all they translate nicely into seminars because that's what they were, right? I go from a seminar, write a book, and then I take the book and I cut it up and make them into online programs.
Okay, thank you. Last question. What is your definition of winning? Now, I listen to all the people in the spiritual community. They think that winning is competition. But in my definition, it isn't like competition. What is your definition?
Well, I don't really use the word winning, but winning to me would be being fulfilled. You know, if I'm fulfilled, you know, like, oh God, that fulfills me, then I won. If I'm not feeling fulfilled, then I feel like I'm losing or a loser. It's like, oh, I'm not very fulfilled. I hate this job. Well, then I'm not winning. I said, boy, I love being on stage. I love doing a big seminar. I love doing hangout shows. I love doing my Facebook live shows. I love doing book signings. I just love training and doing stuff. Then I'm in the winning mood, right? It's a positive experience. Yeah. And then if I'm not having the positive experience, then I feel like I'm losing, right? It's like, to me, it's just another way to talk about a positive experience and a negative experience.
How do you always talk about your seminar? I don't know if anybody talk about it. How do you do like seminars? If people want to get into seminar?
On my webpage, hangoutwithmichael.com, there's an events page, and you can see when I'm doing in-person seminars. You know, all of my live Facebook shows on Friday, they're mini seminars, as you know. I'm always taking one topic and flushing it out and training from that topic. So they're not success story shows. They're training. I take 250 shows. Every show I'm taking a topic and training it. It's either about law of attraction, NLP, or your life's purpose. I'm always taking one of these books and doing a little mini half-hour training segment once a week, because I'm a trainer. And when I'm training, that's when I get my needs met. And when I get my needs met, I'm winning.
Thank you so much for today. I'm so grateful for you for coming on this interview. I'm blessed to have you. And we all are. That's why I want to get back to you so much. And you just don't know that I want to like jump out of the screen and like hug you. Yeah! Anyway, where can we find you, Michael Losier?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. It's hangoutwithmichael.com. And on Instagram, it's Michael_Losier_ LOA. Michael_Losier_ LOA. And again, I give a lot of training tips out there, training graphics, all about law of attraction, filling your life's purpose.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. And subscribe to my channel, like my video, and follow me. Oh, crap, I edited it out. And subscribe to my channel.